Yeah.
My name is Malin, and in this video I wanted to talk about my experience with psychedelics. Growing up I was very much against any substances, alcohol, cigarettes, anything of that sort. Everything else I just kind of lumped into drugs. I didn't really know the difference between acid, mushrooms, weed, all that kind of stuff, all the kind of names of them as well. I was kind of just oblivious to it because, one of my big dreams when I was like 14 was that I wanted to play professional soccer, and that's what I thought I would do. And so I just had this label with all of these kind of drugs and these substances, and just thought that immediately that they were bad things and that I shouldn't be doing them at all. And I judged without having the experience of them, which is a really bad thing to do. You can say something's really bad, but if you haven't had the experience of them and actually experienced it, I'm not telling you to experience it all, because some of them can be very, very detrimental and they're not for everyone, and I don't recommend that everyone does it. But also I just want to make sure that there's a distinguished line between psychedelics and drugs, because psychedelics are non-addictive and they alter the state of your mind and they make you see things. Often that's what people do when they think of psychedelics. They think of the weird kind of visions, and that comes along with it. But it has something to do with the serotonin kind of regulator. Whatever, I don't know much about the science, but just look at it if you want to look at it. I've found that it's benefited me a lot, which is why I'm talking about it in this video. Hopefully that wind isn't fucking the audio up too much. So to start with, what led me to the point of not wanting to do this at all and actually thinking about doing it or even being open to it, and open to doing psychedelics before I'd even done alcohol or cigarettes or anything like that, which was kind of like crazy to think about. Because everyone else my age had done alcohol, they'd done that kind of thing. Not many of them have done psychedelics. Not many people do. But anyway, I was at this really low point, which I've talked about a lot in these other videos. I was struggling a lot, didn't see much point to being alive, was just caught up in my own kind of emotions and feelings, and it was really, really dark and really, really hard and difficult to get through each day. It was a struggle to get up in the morning, it was a struggle to eat, it was a struggle to be motivated to do anything, and it was just a really kind of sad place to be. And I started with, I would have made my way through it eventually, but it would have been so tough to go through it all alone and to go through it without anything help. And eventually I just kind of realized that over the years that these feelings were slowly getting smaller, but they just kept coming up. And even though I was getting better at dealing with them, sometimes they just come on, and for months I'd just be in this state, depressed state, and I wouldn't be able to do anything or get out of it. And I just feel so horrible about it. And anyway, I was kind of in this scenario where I was like kind of doing an active thing with my friend, and so I kind of talked to him about it. He'd mentioned the mushrooms before because he was into that kind of stuff, and he did a lot of drugs when he was little, but when he was a teenager, silly. He's silly. And into adulthood, when he was my age, he was like, fuck man, when I was your age, I was just fucking smoking meth every day. And he got over that. He had the help of a really lovely woman, and he got through that, and he's better for it now. And he could see that there was a part inside of me, he saw that thing inside me that was, even though I was struggling so much, he saw that inside me there was a part that desperately wanted to get out, that desperately needed to be heard. And over the years of just knowing him, he just kept talking to that, and eventually, led to us becoming closer and closer, and me becoming more open and more talkative and communicative about myself and that kind of thing, and what was like inside of me. Because when you start sharing experiences, they become more externalized. Whether you write about them, whether you tell someone else about them, they kind of become shared. And other people can kind of relate to it, but also you're processing it and you're getting through it, and you can see it in a different kind of perspective when you talk about it or write it out. It's kind of this separation, which is like nice. Basically, I'm talking about therapy kind of stuff, but maybe more practical, because talking is only one part of it. You have to actually experience it and make changes, and that's the hardest thing, because even if you think that you're a great person, if you don't have results or anything backing that up, if you don't have proof that you are a good person, then you're just deluded if you think that you are a great person. Anyway, I'm kind of talking about things, but what I wanted to state was that I was scared when I was going to take the mushrooms. I was scared as fuck because I hadn't done anything like that, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to get hooked onto this weird drug and like fuck up my life and make fun of me or whatever. But it didn't. It was nothing like that, and I was completely blown away because I had a really great trip. Just if you guys want to know, I talk about a gram of magic mushrooms in a chocolate, and yeah, that trip, like, it accelerated my progress. And I realized when I was in that kind of state, after I was nervous, after I had so much fear, and then I felt it and I experienced it, and there was just this huge opening up of my body and just like this flowing kind of movement. If you've kind of done it, then you know what I'm talking about, but it may look really crazy if you don't know what I'm talking about. You're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? It's some weird thing. And I could be. But for me, it opened up my mind, and I was able to see myself from this whole other perspective, way higher up. And I was just looking at myself. Like, I looked at this photo of myself at one time because I was doing drawings, and I just was using reference photos. And I saw this photo of myself that was like from a week ago from when I had took the mushrooms, and I was like, fuck, why is this guy like so fucking serious? Like, why the fuck does he look so serious? And then I drew like a stupid photo, and they were like, oh, Mr. Serious Man. And my hair was slicked back at that point when I had long hair, and I drew cars just driving down this hair thing while I was looking, and it was just a really funny kind of time, That's just an example of something that happened on like my trip. And I was very lucky because, I could see myself from this other perspective. I saw how sad and lonely I was living, and how I was blocking myself from fun and happiness because I was so like caught up in my own suffering and caught up in these own things and all these things that I felt like I had to do to feel happy, rather than feeling happy and doing those things that I wanted to do, which I talk about a little bit in the next video about why 99% of people are unhappy, which is going to come out after this video, even though I'm recording this video now and I've already. Anyway, so just I felt the lightness, air of fun, and afterwards, the after effects of it was such a subtle change. It was like before, like my trajectory was going to be just like on this mountain, it was just going to be at this mountain, and when I took mushrooms, it just bumped it up just that little tiny bit. It was just a subtle change, but the change was so drastic that instead of me just aiming from a mountain, my trajectory was then to the moon. It was just like a world of a difference just in that slight shift, and I was more productive. I was doing more of my duties. I was taking care of things. I could work longer. I had more energy. I was happier. I was becoming more social and more open, and it just kind of opened me up to all these kind of experiences, and that led to me, experimenting with alcohol, experimenting with cigarettes and smoking weed and those kind of things, which is not something that is great for your health, and it's not something that you should be really proud of, but I was like so against those things. But it was actually an achievement for me to do those things, explore them and be like, oh, what is this about? Find out what it's about, explore it, experience what other people my age have been experiencing for ages and what they're stuck in, and then being like, oh, I get this now. It's not just like, oh, fuck alcohol, it's bad for your health. It's like, I get it. I totally get it. And as I said, it sounds weird for me to say that it's a good thing, but all these things were kind of good for me to open my experiences, to have more experiences and more references. It just made my world feel so much more open. and, you know, gave me more of a sense of where I fit into things. And it ended up, I ended up taking a couple microdoses, and I found that I was in social situations with that, and I was bruh. I was in social situations and I felt quite anxious, and I was quite worried, and I felt like those trips, those microdoses kind of made me more anxious than good. So I was like, alright, I'm just going to wait and do like another big dose. And this time I did, that time I did about 3 grams, and the first time I didn't see anything. I didn't have much of the visuals. I just had like the kind of eyes, and you can just see things so much more better and clearer. You have all your senses are heightened. Well, with this one, I was seeing patterns, and it was like fucking intense. I was just like trying to survive it, you know, because it was like reaching like the edge of my comfort zone, and it just kept going, and then it kind of slowed off, and then it was kind of fun and nice. And then recently, last week, I did acid, LSD, whatever you want to call it, and oh my god, that's just a different ball game. That's like more intense. It's just crazy, and it lasted the whole day, and it was so draining, and the visuals were just insane. Like several hours just seeing shit, just being like, oh fuck, when is this gonna go over? You know, and then just closing your eyes, trying to get through it, experiencing what you're experiencing, and then opening your eyes and seeing all this kind of crazy ass shit. The acid I don't recommend. I just don't recommend it. It can really fuck you up. I saw how people could go insane. Like I literally reached this point where I thought that I was this crazy kind of like test subject or kind of like thing, you know? And it was just really uncomfortable, but it's something that really puts hairs on your chest, and it's like something that's like, oh, you know, I got through this and I beat this, and I'm still a good person, I'm still who I am. I didn't let myself go insane, you know, I held on to reality and didn't let myself go crazy. But you definitely could if you do it too much, or if you're not the person suited to it. And yeah, it's basically literally just like a fever dream. And after it, you know, I was surprised. As soon as after I took it, I just had zero desire, just like that. I was like drinking just like a beer or two at least every night, and smoking like a few cigarettes a day, sometimes a week, a couple of times a week. And I realized I was having a detriment to my health, which is why I got sick. And then after that acid trip, the desire just left, just completely gone. I had no desire at all. It was there, all the triggers were there, I'm in the same environment, nothing changed, you know, it's still there. I still have the freaking cigarettes, and I still had the weed and all that kind of stuff, but no desire for it. I didn't want it, you know, because I've just been through this intense trip, and it's like, I gotta let that settle, and it just made me be so much more appreciative of my body and my vessel, and just be like, I really gotta take care of this, you know. Why did I slap my belly when I said that? I really gotta take care of this. Yeah, so basically what I want to really reiterate about this, you know, because if you're kind of interested in this, is that it's not for everyone, and I'm not sure if I recommend it for everyone, because you have to really be a particular kind of person to do it. And I was lucky enough to have someone that could recognize that I could handle it, and had the potential to go through it, and that I was someone that was open and willing enough to it, you know. Because not many people are, you know. We all like to hold on to our beliefs, we like to hold on to the worldview that we currently have, but to take psychedelics is to break that apart and then find something new, find something better, and that can be really daunting, especially if you haven't been very open or learned a lot about the negative, because, you know, if you're not comfortable with the idea of death, if you're not comfortable with the idea of no meaning in life, if you're not comfortable with those kind of things, then it's going to really fuck you up. And I was lucky enough that I've been thinking about death for a really long time, you know. I I've talked about it before, but I thought about killing myself, planned about killing myself a lot of times, so I was kind of very intimate with that kind of feeling, that kind of sensation. And I knew that I could get out of it, knew that there was more to live for. And that was basically what helped me get through these kind of trips. You know, because you need that when you're tripping balls. Yeah, I think that's basically all I wanted to say. You know, overall for me it was quite positive. It was a good experience, and if you want to kind of hear more about it, hear more about my stories or anything about it, or actually see, I could do a video of me doing one. I don't know how that go. I don't know if that's appropriate. But anyway, thank you for watching if you did. This was a different video to what I usually do. You know, it's usually self-helpy kind of stuff, although this is kind of relative. And what I actually found after doing psychedelics was that so many people have like done them, like so many musicians and that, and you know, they've done them in the kind of like that big rock and roll kind of way. But actually like lots of self-help people, you know, Tim Ferriss advocates for them, and this other guy, Taylor Allen, he is actually like a plant medicine dude. And you know, these things are actually really beneficial for your growth and for developing as a person and understanding yourself more. So thank you for watching if you did, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao.